20 years later, the mining industry looks very different today from how it did in '94 when we received democracy. What is the state of mining today, and perhaps what should it be?
If we're talking from an industrial relations perspective and wages, etc., we've come a long way. Since the advent of the National Union of Mine Workers, the first black trade union that was allowed to negotiate, and this was even before other industries allowed black trade unions, etc. We were the first industry to allow a black trade union to sit around a table with us, where at that stage the priority was just to do something about the wages of the mine workers and to try and bring them more on a par with the wages in other industries.
Can it be said that as much as wage negotiations are about wages, especially of late, it's also about social disenfranchisement and the social condition of our communities?
We do acknowledge that there have been social aspects of the strike. I mean, if you look at the salary demands and you look at the living conditions of workers around the mining areas, if you look at the level at which mine workers are over-indebted, if you look at the problems and the issues with unscrupulous lenders and so on, one then realizes that there are other aspects, to what has been happening around the Platinum Belt.
Our labour legislation has changed dramatically over the past 2 decades and has come in for some criticism. What do you think is working, and what do we need to re-evaluate?
We've had some discussions, particularly around, after what has happened in the Platinum Belt, a strike of longer than 5 months, unheard of in South Africa. The thought, we were thinking, has the labour legislation failed us? There are a couple of changes, more like tweaking, we thought we need to do in the labour legislation. We were very disappointed when the balloting requirement that we in NEDLAC, and the Chamber of Mines is part of BUSA, organised business, so we were part of the negotiations in NEDLAC where we had agreed with the government as social partner in NEDLAC, that we would have the ballot requirement as a precondition for a protected strike.
The environment in the context of mining is a very contentious issue. We've got a legacy of acid mine drainage, and there's always talk about protected areas and areas that are sensitive. Has enough been done, and how do we deal with the legacy issues?
I think it's fairly easy to use a 2014 lens to look at the activities that took place in 1950. The current acid mine drainage problem merely relates to those mining activities that took place almost 100 years ago and 50 years ago. So they are really part of the legacy of what South Africa is, and they are not necessarily unique to South Africa. They are universal in those mining countries.